My name's Robert Ellis. Most folks just call me Rob. I'm 58 years old, retired plant manager from Prescott, Arizona, and I used to think I'd earned the quiet years. I'd spent 3 decades in steel manufacturing, managed crews through strikes, heat waves, and one plant fire that almost took my hand. I walked away with a pension, a paid-off truck, and the kind of reputation you could hang your hat on. Life after retirement was supposed to be simple. Morning coffee at the diner, Sunday service, helping my daughter Megan fix up her place in Phoenix. She's the pride of my life. Smart, careful, always too good for the kind of people who talk more than they work. When she married Lucas Ward, I tried to believe she'd found a partner who saw that too. Lucas was charming in the way that makes your gut uneasy. Always on the phone, always scaling something. His marketing startup, his image, his ego. He called me sir like it was a performance. Still, I gave him a fair chance. You want your kid happy, not right. 2 weeks before Christmas, I got an email from Valley Trust Bank thanking me for signing the authorization for the Ward Tech investor account. I stared at it for a full minute, thinking maybe it was spam. Then I scrolled down and saw my full name, social security number, and digital signature. Only I hadn't signed anything. At first, I figured it was a clerical error. But the next morning, I got a call from an old colleague congratulating me for backing Lucas's new 6-figure venture. My stomach turned cold. That evening, at the family dinner table, Lucas raised a glass to me in front of Megan and half her friends. To Rob, he said, grinning, for believing in the future. Couldn't have closed the deal without him. Everyone cheered. Cameras flashed. Megan beamed with pride. I sat there smiling like a fool, heart pounding, wondering how my name had been turned into a business tool. The steak knife in my hand felt heavier than it should have. And deep down, a thought began to crawl across my chest like ice. What if this wasn't a mistake? The next week, Lucas invited the whole family and half the neighborhood to a launch party for his company, Ward Tech Innovations. Casual dinner, he'd said. Just a small celebration. Small, my ass. The restaurant he rented downtown had gold-trimmed menus, a rented media crew, and a live band playing soft jazz. Megan looked radiant, proud, busy helping the staff. Lucas moved through the crowd like a talk show host, shaking hands, giving hugs, calling everyone partner. I tried to keep to the back with a club soda and a polite smile. That lasted about 20 minutes, until Lucas clinked his glass and motioned for quiet. Tonight, he said, isn't just about Ward Tech's success. It's about family. It's about trust. He turned, hand extended toward me like a magician revealing a trick. And it's about this man, my father-in-law, Rob Ellis, whose signature helped us secure our biggest investor deal yet. Applause broke out. Someone whistled. A spotlight from the stage caught me off guard. I froze mid-sip as phones rose to record. Lucas grinned. Rob's proof that experience never goes out of style. He believed in us when others wouldn't. He didn't hesitate to sign, said, and I quote, "If it helps the next generation, count me in." Laughter rippled through the room. Megan smiled at me, pride shining in her eyes. She didn't see it, the way Lucas's eyes glinted, the deliberate pause on sign. I raised my glass, forced a half smile, and waited for the moment to pass. But it didn't. "Come on, Rob," Lucas said. "Say a few words for the cameras." Every instinct told me not to, but refusing would make me look weak, or worse, guilty. So I stood, straightened my jacket, and walked to the mic. "I didn't know I was the evening's entertainment," I said lightly. The crowd chuckled. Lucas is ambitious, and I've always believed hard work should mean more than handshakes. Lucas's grin tightened. Of course, Rob. But let's be honest. You've been retired a while. You trust us young guys to handle the paperwork, right? There it was, the smirk, the tone. It wasn't just a party. It was a performance. I was the prop. The room laughed again, polite but nervous. Megan tugged his sleeve, whispering something I couldn't hear. Lucas waved her off. Don't worry, he said into the mic. My father-in-law's old school. Still believes in deals made on trust. He handed me the microphone, eyes daring me to deny it. I looked at him, then at the crowd, and said quietly, Trust is earned, son, and broken the same way. I set the mic down and walked out before anyone could clap. Outside, the cold air hit me like truth. If Lucas thought I was too old, too polite to fight back, he'd just signed his own mistake, because the next signature he forged would be the one that buried him. The morning after that circus of a dinner, I showed up at Lucas's office before sunrise. The glass building gleamed like it had nothing to hide. I walked past the receptionist, who looked startled to see me. Tell Mr. Ward his father-in-law's here, I said, and I'm not leaving until he talks to me. She stammered something into the phone, and within minutes Lucas appeared, all smiles and polished shoes. Rob, you could have called first. Coffee? Cut the act, I said. We need to talk. He led me into his corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the skyline that looked more borrowed than earned. He shut the door, and the smile dropped. What's this about? You know damn well, I said, setting my phone on his desk. That contract you announced last night, the one with my name on it. He sighed like I'd asked him to fix a flat tire. Rob, you're overthinking it. We just used your name for investor confidence. You said you supported the project. I said I wanted to see you succeed, I snapped. That's not consent. You forged my signature. Lucas leaned against his desk, hands in pockets, every inch the smug executive. I didn't forge anything. You must have forgotten. We had that dinner 2 months ago at Red Canyon Grill. You signed a few papers I brought along. Standard NDA authorization forms. I never signed a thing, I said, voice low but steady. And if you think you can gaslight me, you're picking the wrong man. He smirked. Look, maybe you're getting things mixed up. Happens at your age, but don't worry. I've got the paperwork on file. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder, sliding a document across the desk. My name sat at the bottom in blue ink. It looked like my signature, but it wasn't. You can't fake handwriting that easily, I said, narrowing my eyes. He shrugged. I didn't have to. You signed it. We even had it notarized. My pulse thudded in my ears. Who notarized this? He smiled wider. Doesn't matter. It's done. You should be thanking me. You're finally part of something big. I stood there, every instinct telling me to knock that smirk off his face. Instead, I took a photo of the page right there in front of him. What are you doing? He asked. Making sure the next time you lie, I have evidence. His smile faltered. Rob, this is family business. Don't make it ugly. I slipped my phone into my jacket. You already did. Then I turned for the door. Careful, old man, he called after me. You push too hard, and you'll regret it. I didn't answer, because deep down, I already knew. He wasn't threatening me out of strength. He was warning me out of fear. By Monday morning, the storm had started. I went to pay a bill online and got an error message. Account access suspended. I called the bank, and the woman on the line spoke carefully, like someone handling a broken thing. Mr. Ellis, due to an ongoing inquiry regarding irregular authorizations on a joint investment file, Your account has been placed on temporary hold. Joint with who? I asked. Ward Tech Innovations, sir. I hung up before she could finish the script. My hands were shaking, not from age, but fury. At the diner that afternoon, people stopped talking when I walked in. My usual seat at the counter sat empty, a napkin already folded there like a silent apology. Hank, the cook, avoided my eyes. I'd known him 30 years. He finally muttered, "Heard about the thing, Rob. That's rough." What thing? Lucas filed some kind of statement. Claimed you, got confused about a business loan. Said the family's helping you handle it quietly. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. When I got home, there was a letter waiting in my mailbox. Ward Tech Legal Department, embossed and official. Inside, "Dear Mr. Ellis, we regret that your recent confusion has caused reputational damage to Ward Tech Innovations. Please cease any false claims regarding authorization forms. Your involvement has been documented." At the bottom, Lucas's signature, clean, confident, smug. I sat on the porch steps, letter trembling in my hand, as dusk settled over the street. Neighbors passed, waving awkwardly. One of them, Mrs. Doran, whispered to another, "It's sad, isn't it? He's not well." That one stung more than the letter. Then headlights cut across my yard. A rusty Chevy rolled up, and out stepped Jenna Morales, an old co-worker from my factory days. We'd both been shift leads back when sweat and steel meant something. "Rob," she said, leaning on her cane, "you're in deeper than you know. I do HR work for a legal firm now. I saw your name pop up in an internal database. Lucas filed a preemptive claim that you're showing cognitive decline." I stared. "He's calling me senile?" She nodded. "It's strategy. If you challenge the documents, he'll use that to discredit you, but..." She pulled a USB drive from her coat pocket. "I got a copy of the notary log from Valley Trust. It's weird. The same notary handled 3 of Lucas's recent loans. The timestamps don't match the signatures." I took the drive, the metal cold in my hand. "That's the first thing that's made sense all week." She squeezed my shoulder. "Get smart, Rob. Get proof. He's not just stealing your money. He's rewriting who you are." As her taillights disappeared down the road, I stood there staring at the USB like it was a loaded weapon. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just fraud. It was a full-scale erasure, one I'd have to burn down to the ground to survive. That week was the longest of my life. Every morning, I checked my phone, half hoping Megan would call, half dreading she already had, and that she'd say the words I feared most. On Thursday, she finally did. "Dad," she started, voice soft but strained. "Lucas told me what happened." "What did he tell you?" I asked. "That you got confused. That you signed something without understanding it. He's worried about you." I laughed once, dry and sharp. "Worried? That's rich." "Please don't make this harder," she said. "You're upsetting people, and if you keep talking about forgery, you'll ruin his business. And ours. You know how people can be online." I tried to swallow the lump in my throat. "Megan, he used my name. My signature. That's theft." Silence hummed through the line. "I love you," she said finally. "But I can't do this. Not if you keep attacking him." The call ended. I stared at the quiet phone, its screen reflecting a man I barely recognized. Lined face, gray stubble, eyes hollow. By evening, a photo of me from the launch party was circulating online. Me standing awkwardly beside Lucas, champagne glass in hand. The caption read, "Retired plant manager backs his son-in-law's tech venture." Dozens of likes, comments saying how inspiring it was to see an old man supporting innovation. The world had already chosen its version of the story, and it wasn't mine. I tried to sleep, but the thoughts kept circling. You're losing everything: your name, your family, your reputation. At 3 a.m., I sat in the dark kitchen, the only light coming from the fridge. The USB drive Jenna gave me sat on the table beside my untouched dinner. I turned it in my fingers, its metallic edge cold as guilt. I thought about Sharon, my late wife. She'd been the one who believed in patience, who'd told me once, when they push you into a corner, that's where you find your backbone. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked, sharp and lonely. I stood, walked to the window and whispered, "You always said proof talks louder than pride." That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. "Mr. Ellis?" a man's voice said when I answered. "Name's Clay Mercer. I'm an independent notary investigator. Your friend Jenna reached out. Said you've got reason to think your signature was forged. You might want to hear what I've found." My heart gave one hard beat. "What did you find?" "Let's just say your son-in-law's not as clever as he thinks." The line went quiet for a moment, heavy with promise. And in that silence, I realized something. I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Clay Mercer showed up the next morning driving a beat-up Dodge with the back seat full of files. He looked about 60, ex-cop type, trim gray beard, leather jacket, eyes that didn't blink more than they had to. "You Rob Ellis?" he asked as I opened the door. "Last I checked." He grinned faintly. "Good, because you're about to piss off some powerful people." We sat at my kitchen table, coffee steaming between us. Clay pulled out a folder and a tablet, tapping the screen. "Your signature on that Valley Trust authorization? Dated October 5th, notarized by a Marissa Kent. Only problem is, Marissa died September 12th. I stared. "You're kidding." "Wish I was." He slid over a death certificate and the original log entry. He used her digital stamp. Sloppy, but effective if nobody checks. "How'd you even find that?" "Your friend Jenna sent me the timestamps from her firm's database. I cross-referenced with state notary records. Been doing this 30 years, mostly insurance fraud and real estate scams. This one's different. It's personal." He leaned forward. "You said he humiliated you at a public event." "More like paraded me like a trophy." Clay nodded slowly. "Good. Means there's video." "What good's that? Just shows me standing there like a fool." "Maybe. Or maybe it shows him referencing a signature before the document was legally notarized." I blinked. "You think he slipped up on camera?" "Most narcissists do," Clay said. "They like the sound of their own downfall." Something cold and electric lit up in my chest. The first real spark since this started. Clay packed up his files. "I'll dig through the corporate filings. You find that party footage, phones, social media, whatever. Don't confront him again until we've got something solid." "Trust me," I said. "I learned my lesson." He paused at the door. "One more thing, Rob. Lucas already filed a guardianship request." I froze. "A what?" "He's petitioning for temporary financial guardianship over you. Claims cognitive decline. If the court approves it, you lose control of your own accounts." For a second, I couldn't breathe. "How long do I have?" 2 weeks before the hearing. Maybe less if he pushes it." When he left, I sat alone with that number echoing in my head. 2 weeks. I walked to the shelf and pulled down an old box. Sharon's things. Inside were our tax returns, insurance papers, a few handwritten notes she'd left. One in particular caught my eye. If someone takes what's yours, don't beg for it back. Make them wish they'd never touched it. By the time the sun went down, I had my laptop open and a plan forming. Lucas wanted a war of paperwork. He was about to get one. We spread everything out on my kitchen table like a war map. Jenna's USB, Clay's manila folder, my old ledgers, a half-empty box of paper clips. The lamp threw a pool of yellow light across the papers, and for the first time in weeks, the mess felt like a strategy rather than chaos. Step 1, Clay said, tapping a photocopy with a thumbnail. We lock down certified records. Valley Trust needs to be forced to hand over original loan documents, notarization logs, timestamps, everything. If the bank resists, Rachel can file a subpoena. Make them cough it up on paper, not just what their PR wants to show the press. Rachel was the lawyer Jenna mentioned. Young, sharp, and practical. I hadn't met her yet, but Jenna vouched for her like she was family. Jenna nodded and added, "Get certified copies. We'll want originals and certified copies for chain of custody. No loose prints, no secondhand screenshots." Step 2, Clay continued, handwriting analysis. You signed 1,000 time cards. We get a certified graphologist to compare your known samples to the Rob Ellis's on that Ward Tech file. If it's forged, the analyst will say so in a way the court can't shrug off. I thought about my hands, calloused, honest, and felt a small, hot thread of vindication. Paper had always told the truth if you read it right. Step 3, Jenna said, flipping her phone to show an app. Digital forensics, email headers, IP addresses, file metadata. Most people think deleting means gone. It doesn't. We can recover headers that show where authorization emails originated. If Lucas sent anything from his office IP or forwarded files from his account, there's a trail. Clay leaned in. And get social media. That launch party footage, phones, Insta stories, anything. Narcissists love to film themselves. If he bragged or handled the papers on camera, that's gold. Step 4, I said, feeling steadier. Witnesses, Sam, Hank, anyone who heard Lucas brag, anyone who saw him with the folder. If he's been telling people how he used my name, we need sworn statements. Jenna added the next piece. We also need to prepare for the guardianship hearing. If Lucas has already filed, we counterfile medical records, affidavits attesting to your competence, and a forensic psychologist's quick assessment to show you are not incapacitated. No court should hand your life to the man who stole from you. Step 5, timeline and stage, Clay said, voice low and tight with the part he liked best. We don't just file and hope. We create a sequence. Forensics, certified records, analyst report, then a public reveal, board meeting, investor briefing, live stream, some place where his empire is visible. Let him fall in public where he built his stage. Jenna tapped a pen against her notebook. We'll also loop in a reporter. Investigative pieces make banks and boards act faster than private letters. If we leak a fraction to the right desk, they'll demand answers. I wrote the steps down in block letters. Bank, handwriting, forensics, witness, public. Each word felt like a plank in a bridge I'd been building back to myself. When the plans felt like something you could touch, Clay reached into his coat and pulled out another envelope. One more thing, he said, sliding the slim printout across. We asked a favor from a contact at the restaurant. They pulled a backup of the launch party footage from a server. The file was corrupted until their tech recovered it. You might want to sit down for this. My hand hovered over the paper. Clay's eyes were flat as steel. We've got footage of Lucas handling a folder, signing a piece of paper and saying, right on camera, He won't look twice at this. Old men never read the fine print. My heart skipped a beat. The kitchen seemed to tilt. That's all we need, Clay said. One clip, and his whole performance goes from nice PR to admission. We bring that to Rachel, she turns it into a legal prelude. The bank can't ignore it. But you do exactly what I say from now on. No confrontations, no grandstanding. And don't go near Lucas unless it's with us. I stared at the sentence on the printout, as if it were a promise. For the first time since this started, the idea of stepping into a courtroom or a boardroom felt possible, not terrifying. I tucked the paper back into the envelope, closed my hand over it, and heard the house hold its breath with me. Clay picked up his coat. We move fast. 2 weeks to guardianship hearing. 2 weeks to get them to flinch. You ready, Rob? I swallowed, and the answer came out before I could talk myself out of it. I'm ready. 3 days later, we met in Rachel's office downtown. A narrow room stacked with boxes labeled Evidence A through F. She was younger than I expected, mid-30s maybe, sharp eyes behind plain glasses, the kind of calm that makes people twice her age nervous. She greeted me like a client she already planned to win. Mr. Ellis, I've reviewed the materials Jenna sent. You've been framed into a financial contract worth 6 figures. But the good news? They got greedy and sloppy. She flipped open a folder. Inside was a certified copy of the Valley Trust authorization form with my signature. Then she laid another sheet beside it, a sample from my pension paperwork, notarized 3 years ago. Different pressure pattern, different slant, different loop sequence. A forensic graphologist will confirm in one glance. Clay leaned back, arms crossed. That's strike 1. Rachel smiled faintly. Strike 2 is the notary log. We subpoenaed the notary record tied to this transaction. Guess who signed as a witness? She turned the page. My breath caught. Witness, Lucas Ward. Jenna cursed under her breath. He notarized his own fraud. Rachel nodded. Illegal in all 50 states. And strike 3, digital metadata. The authorization file was uploaded from a device tied to wardtechmarketing.com at 9:42 p.m. on December 4th. Your IP history shows you were offline that entire night. Clay gave a low whistle. We have him cold. Rachel wasn't done. She reached for another folder stamped security footage. Our contact at the event recovered a backup copy of the Ward Tech launch livestream. 90-second mark, he opens a brown envelope, your envelope, and says the line, audio clear as daylight. She pressed play on her laptop. Lucas's grin filled the screen. He won't look twice at this, he said, laughing. Old men never read the fine print. The sound hit harder than any punch. Rachel paused the video. Face unreadable. That's admissible. But before we go to the authorities, we'll weaponize it correctly. We file for injunction first. Freeze Ward Tech's corporate accounts, citing suspected forgery. Then, we leak this clip to the Arizona Republic's financial desk. Once it hits public air, his investors panic. Panic makes truth louder. Clay added, and it buys you leverage before the guardianship hearing. He can't call you senile while reporters are printing his confession. Rachel closed the laptop gently. Mr. Ellis, you've been quiet through all this. How do you feel about going public? I looked down at the photo still frames, Lucas mid-laugh, holding the folder that bore my name. I'm done being quiet, I said. Rachel nodded once. Good. Then the first move is tonight. I'll file the injunction before midnight. Clay, Jenna, you'll handle the press tip anonymously. By sunrise, the story starts bleeding. Jenna smirked. Merry Christmas, Lucas. When I stepped out into the parking lot, the desert air was cold and clear. For weeks, I'd been the old man everyone thought would fade quietly. But tonight, my name was finally back in my own hands, and I intended to make it burn. The injunction and press leak are set for midnight. Lucas's viral humiliation begins at dawn. By the time I woke the next morning, my phone was shaking itself off the nightstand. 23 missed calls, 8 text messages from unknown numbers, and one from Megan. "Dad, what did you do? Lucas is losing it. It's all over the news." I turned on the TV. Local Channel 7 was running a live report. The chyron read, "Phoenix startup CEO accused of forging retired father-in-law's signature to fund his business." They played the clip Rachel had given us. Lucas's face filled the screen, grinning, cocky, holding my envelope. Old men never read the fine print. The anchor continued. "Valley Trust has confirmed a court injunction freezing WardTech accounts pending investigation. Allegations include document forgery and unauthorized transfer of investor funds." I didn't smile. I just sat there, coffee going cold, heart steady for the first time in weeks. At 9:42 a.m., my doorbell rang hard enough to shake the frame. I opened it to find Lucas on the porch, face pale, jaw twitching. His car was parked sideways across my driveway, like he'd come straight from a crash. He pushed past me before I could speak. "You think this is funny?" he spat. "You ruined everything. Megan's crying her eyes out. My investors are calling non-stop, and I've got reporters outside my house." I stayed by the door. "I warned you once about using my name, Lucas." This is slander," he stammered. "Do you have any idea what you've done to your own daughter's husband? Do you have any idea what you did to her father?" He froze. I pulled the manila folder from the table, the one Rachel had prepped for the court filing. Inside were copies of every forged page, notarization log, and metadata printout. I dropped them on the counter between us. "You want to talk about damage?" I said quietly. "Here's the list." He flipped through the papers, eyes darting, realizing with each line that he was cornered. "You leaked this!" he shouted. "No, I reported fraud." The truth leaked itself. He slammed his fist on the counter. "You don't know what you've started. Do you think this makes you look good? You're a lonely, bitter old man clinging to his last bit of pride. Better than a young man without a shred of it." The silence after that felt like thunder. Outside, a car door slammed. Voices followed. Reporters. Lucas's eyes widened as a knock came at the door behind him. "Mr. Ward, can you comment on the forgery allegations?" He turned, face draining color. I stepped closer, voice calm. "You wanted me to be part of your big viral moment. Looks like you got your wish." He backed toward the door, muttering curses as cameras flashed through the glass. As he stumbled down the porch steps, a reporter shouted, "Is it true you notarized your own father-in-law's signature?" He didn't answer, just kept walking fast toward his car, surrounded by microphones. I closed the door slowly. For the first time in months, the house felt quiet. Not empty, not defeated. Just steady. But it wasn't over yet, because Rachel's message buzzed on my phone 2 minutes later. The injunction worked, but he's transferring funds through a second shell company. We go for the bank confession next. I looked out the window at the reporters following Lucas down the street and whispered to myself, "Let's finish it." Lucas's public downfall has begun, but he's still trying to move hidden money. By sunset that same day, the fallout had gone nuclear. WardTech's website vanished. Their investor group chat screenshots flooded Reddit. Lucas's smug profile photo now sat beside headlines like "Startup Scam Unfolds in Real Time." But the man wasn't done fighting. At 8:17 p.m., my voicemail light blinked red. I pressed play. His voice came through cracked and furious. You think this is over? You think you can humiliate me on camera and just sip your coffee like some hero? You've got no idea who you're messing with. Those investors, they're not saints, Rob. They'll come for you too, because your name's on the damn paperwork. The message ended with a bang of metal, maybe his car door. 10 minutes later, a second voicemail. This one quieter, colder. You want a war? Fine. But remember, Megan's still married to me. That means I'm family. And families can bury things deep. I sat in the dark, phone still in my hand. The hum of the refrigerator louder than my heartbeat. Then the landline rang. Jenna's voice cut through. We got movement. Lucas tried to move 50 grand from a secondary business account at Desert Horizon Bank. He forged your name again, this time using a scanned signature file. How do you know? I asked. Because the bank compliance officer is sitting across from me right now. That's when another voice came on the line. Older, steady, tired. Name's Howard Grayson, he said. Bank security. Been watching Lucas's transfers for days. Thought something smelled wrong. When Rachel's subpoena hit, I froze everything. You froze it? Every cent. Roughly 142,000 still in circulation. The rest's gone, but this ties him to interstate wire fraud. That's federal. I let out a long breath. So we've got him again. Better than that, Jenna said. Howard's willing to testify. The next morning, Rachel arranged a meeting at the courthouse cafe. Howard arrived in a plain gray jacket, carrying a flash drive and a folder marked Audit Trail 2023. He set them down like live grenades. Every unauthorized transaction Lucas tried to push used your digital credentials, Mr. Ellis, he said. Only problem for him is those logins originated from his home Wi-Fi. The timestamps line up exactly with the same hours he was on Zoom calls. Rachel's eyes flicked to me. Physical proof #2. Howard nodded. And there's something else. Internal memos show Megan's trust fund listed as collateral for a pending loan application he filed yesterday morning. If we hadn't stopped it, your daughter would have lost everything by the weekend. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Jenna whispered. He's not just greedy, Rob. He's desperate. Rachel straightened the papers, which means he's dangerous. He'll lash out before he collapses. So we tighten the circle. I nodded slowly. Then let's finish tightening. Outside the courthouse window, the morning news played on a mounted TV. Lucas's face again, this time captioned, New evidence surfaces in Ward Tech fraud. Rachel stood, her tone low but firm. Tomorrow, we go public again. Full press conference. You speak this time. He took your name, now you take it back. I met her gaze. Then tomorrow, he learns who really owns the story. Lucas's second forgery attempt is caught, but he's lashing out and cornered. Rob prepares to go public himself. The courthouse press conference was set for Friday morning. Rachel handled the logistics. Clay coordinated the press. Jenna rehearsed my statement until I could say it without shaking. When I stepped up to the microphone, cameras clicked like a hive of bees. The Arizona sun was sharp, bouncing off courthouse windows. Rachel stood to my right, calm and deliberate. Behind her, Howard from the bank clutched the evidence folder that would end Lucas's game once and for all. I began slow. My name is Robert Ellis. I'm 58 years old. I worked 35 years in manufacturing. I built an honest life with my hands. My name means something to me. The crowd hushed. I lifted the manila folder. That name was forged, not once but twice, to fund a company that used my reputation as collateral. The man who did it married my daughter. Cameras flashed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Rachel stepped forward. We have forensic analysis confirming that the signatures on both the Valley Trust and Desert Horizon accounts were falsified by the same person. Digital timestamps trace directly to devices owned by Lucas Ward. The evidence package has been submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The reporters shouted questions, but Rachel kept talking, steady as steel. Additionally, we have correspondence and internal memos showing intent to use Miss Megan Ward's trust fund as loan collateral without her consent. That one hit the air like a grenade. The rest blurred, voices, flashes, movement, until I heard someone yelling behind the barrier. Lucas. He pushed through the crowd, hair disheveled, eyes wild. You lying old man, you set me up. The officers stepped forward, but Rachel gestured for calm. Lucas stopped in front of me, chest heaving. You think the world believes this? You're a washed-up factory worker with a grudge. You don't even understand how business works. I stared at him, voice low but clear. No, son. I understand exactly how theft works, he sneered. You think this will hold up? You think you're smarter than me? That's when Howard stepped between us, holding out a printed email. Actually, Mr. Ward, I think your words might speak louder than his. Lucas grabbed the page, scanning it. His face drained color. Rachel's voice was quiet. That's your email to the bank manager, timestamped December 4th, confirming your authorization as Mr. Ellis's financial proxy. Signed from your IP same minute you uploaded the forged file. He shook his head. You can't. This was... I cut him off. This was you. Jenna stepped closer, holding up her phone. We also have the voicemail you left for Rob last night. You said, and I quote, "Those investors will come for you too, because your name's on the paperwork." That's an admission of guilt. For a long second, the courtyard went dead quiet. Then a dozen microphones swung toward him. Reporters shouting, cameras flashing. Lucas stumbled backward, tripping over a cord, face caught in half-shadow. Lucas Ward, Rachel said, turning toward the officers who had moved in. You are under investigation for wire fraud, identity theft, and falsifying financial documents. You may want to contact an attorney. The officers guided him away. His voice cracked once. Megan, tell them, before disappearing into the noise. But Megan wasn't there, because she was standing across the street, beside Jenna, watching silently. Our eyes met for a brief moment. Her face was pale, tear-streaked, but she nodded once as if to say, "Finish it." I turned back to the microphones. You wanted my name, Lucas. Now you can keep it, in the headlines. The reporters erupted again, but I didn't stay to answer. I'd said what mattered. Behind me, Rachel exhaled for the first time in an hour. You just turned the story into a conviction, she said. And for the first time, I believed her. The trial lasted exactly 19 days. Federal, not state. Rachel had made sure of that. Once the U.S. Attorney's Office took the case, everything accelerated. Wire fraud, identity theft, document falsification, digital tampering, and attempted misappropriation of trust funds. Lucas's defense team tried to spin it as a miscommunication between family members. The jury didn't buy it. When the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, I didn't celebrate. I just sat there, hands folded, while the judge read the sentencing. 12 years federal, no parole for the first 8. Full restitution ordered. He'd forfeit all Ward Tech assets, his vehicles, and whatever was left of his marketing empire. Megan didn't come to court that day. I didn't blame her. She'd filed for divorce the week after his arrest. Rachel helped her freeze joint accounts before he could touch another dime. My daughter deserved peace, not another courtroom. Afterward, Rachel and I walked down the courthouse steps into the dry Arizona wind. Reporters waited at the curb, microphones angled like spears. I didn't stop this time. I didn't owe anyone another quote. The story was over. In the weeks that followed, life found its rhythm again. I sold the old house and moved to a smaller place out by Willow Creek, quiet enough that the only noise was coyotes at night. Jenna still visited, usually with 2 cups of coffee and new gossip from town. Clay sent me an old photograph framed, Lucas at the launch event, holding my forged papers, his smile frozen mid-laugh. On the back, Clay had written, "Proof ages better than revenge." I kept it in a drawer. I didn't need to see it every day. 3 months later, I got a letter from Megan. Inside was a short note in her neat handwriting. "Dad, I finally understand why you kept saying that honesty isn't just about telling the truth. It's about what you do when no one's watching. I'm proud of you. Love, Meg." There was also a photo, her and my grandson at a park, smiling in the sunlight. That picture went on the mantel, where the framed steel plant photo used to hang. That night, I sat on the porch with a mug of black coffee, the desert air cooling around me. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, a long, clean sound. I thought of Lucas, sitting in a cell, his empire gone, his name now the headline he'd once chased. He'd wanted to build a legacy on other people's trust. I'd built mine by earning it back. The balance felt right. When the last bit of light slipped below the horizon, I raised my cup to the dark and whispered, "That's for Carol, for Megan, and for every man they ever thought was too old to fight back." Then I went inside, locked the door, and turned off the porch light. Because for the first time in a long while, I didn't need to keep watch. 6 months later, the news cycle moved on. Ward Tech became a cautionary tale in business ethics classes. My name, once dragged through the mud, was now in print beside the word vindicated. I never asked for an apology. I already had the only justice that mattered: truth under oath and peace under my roof. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories Men U60 USA, because stories like mine deserve to be heard.